My lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome back to Transport Fever 2 and our American Southwest map using the Deluxe DLC. Today we're having a quick look as we start at the city of Norfolk, which has been the focus of our attention for the past few episodes. There isn't much happening right now in Norfolk, but we have set up supply lines that are bringing in the two commodities that they are currently asking for to encourage some city growth. And I'd like to further expand on that by looking to get some of the passenger services set up for this city as well. Ideally, we'd like to get some local services set up to the outlying towns that are in the immediate area, and also, if possible, some mainline connections, ideally to cities such as Knoxville and Carrollton. We might be able to make a push for Nashville at some point as well, but we'll have to determine the logistics of that. But Knoxville and Carrollton should certainly be within reach. Now in Norfolk at the moment there isn't a great deal happening. As we can see, we can make out some of our delivery trucks making their way in and out of the truck station just in front of the rail station. However, there's no cargo for them to pick up, so they're currently running empty, which is not ideal, but it's certainly not the end of the world. So let's bring up the user interface. We can see we're in October of 1950 and we have 12 billion in the bank. Between episodes, as discussed, I have upgraded all of the trains, the freight trains, because we did unlock the highest speed, high capacity freight wagons at the end of the last episode, if you remember. So all of our services now utilise the faster carriages and the high capacity carriages for that matter. It did take a bit of stress testing, so to speak, just to make sure the amended train lengths weren't going to cause issues at any of our junctions. And there were a few snags that I had to work through, but I do think we are pretty much on top of it now, so we can leave them to run in the background. The way I set it up in terms of replacing existing rolling stock for the newer rolling stock is I just look to duplicate where possible the current cargo capacity on the old wagons and mirror that to the new ones. So some of our new trains are actually a little bit shorter. We can see one just rolling into town right now. I don't know if that's the goods or the food. Is it goods or is it machinery? I can't remember. Either way, I'm not sure what it is, but it's clearly pulling the newer rolling stock boxcars. Okay, so let's get started then. That's enough by way of an introduction for today. So yes, here's Norfolk. We have our station obviously already set up, but as it stands right now it's only handling freight, and it was machinery, not goods, by the way. So in terms of local services, well, we have a few cities nearby. We do have Sioux Falls, we have Grand Prairie, and we have Wilmington. Cedar Rapids is a possibility, but it would be a bit of a logistical dance to get up here because it is quite elevated and we are limited on our track gradients. Irving is probably too far away to be a viable local connection, but we could connect that in from Knoxville or even do a link over to Clarksville if we wanted to. But getting an express line from Knoxville to Norfolk should certainly be doable. We might have to come alongside some of our existing infrastructure in places, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I have, in my mind's eye, just walked this line through, and yeah, I think it should be doable. We've just got a new bus and a reskin of that bus, and I think before we get started we may as well swap out those buses that we have. We don't have too many of them, of course, so it won't take too long to achieve this. In fact, there we go, that's all of them. And if we just do a straight swap, at the minute we are running the Greyhound Silver sides. The new one is the PD4103. We have two variants. In fact, to me comes across as inferior. It's the same speed, but it has less power. The cargo capacity, or the passenger capacity rather, is the same. The cost is the same, but we're having higher emissions, as we can see. So maybe we'll just stick with our Silverside Greyhounds. Right, so back over to Norfolk. So if we're going to connect in to Knoxville first of all, we will have catenary on these lines because we may want to use an electrified train for the mainline service, so we will have to upgrade our platforms to accommodate catenary as well, but that'll be very quick and easy to do using the upgrade tool. And in terms of our direction, I'm planning on heading this way, and we'll head towards Wilmington, because what we can do then, we can branch off into Wilmington from that line at some point, whereas the main line will carry on perhaps somewhere down here. We'll have a bridge over the river. We'll probably come parallel here, and if we have the space, we'll then make our way across the freight line here before the station, come over this way. We would then need a bridge over this river somewhere in this area between here and here, it doesn't really matter where, before coming in and then connecting in and maybe having a bit of a tunnel, or it would have to be a substantial tunnel through this ridge line here and connecting into the city of Knoxville. Okay, so let's head over to Norfolk and make a start. And we've got choice of platforms here, of course, so we will go for platform number 1. And what we'll do is the usual thing I like to do when laying station connections, is we'll run a nice straight line out first of all. That will allow us to put in a diamond prior to the station, and I was going to say without too much trouble, but apparently it will be trouble. Oh, there we go. 50 mile an hour, and because we're using the highest speed tracks, we can get to 50 mile an hour in a shorter space, so we don't have to use as much real estate when it comes to laying in the diamond, and that is always a bonus. Okay, so as I said, we're going to head up towards Wilmington now, so we are going to have to cross this connection here. Now that's going to cause the road to rise up rather dramatically, which we'll accept for now, because what we can do later on is perhaps delete some of this bit here and this bit down here, and then just redraw this so this slope isn't quite as exaggerated. But for now we can just leave it to it. The cars will happily deal with that slope, even if it does look ever so slightly ridiculous, and we can focus on getting this track laid down and making our way over to Knoxville. So we're still maintaining the same height that we left the station. We might have raised or dropped by maybe half a metre or so, but that's not a problem. The ground is relatively flat on this map, which does make track laying a lot more easier and a lot more straightforward, shall we say. So we're going to continue with our overall direction as if we're heading to Wilmington. And as I mentioned, what we'll do at some point, might not be in this episode, but at some point we will have a junction somewhere along this stretch that connects into Wilmington, and we can have a passenger station there. In terms of overall connections for the other cities on the map that we haven't yet touched, such as Wilmington, some of them we're not going to bother bringing in the commodities, but we will do some of them, of course, but we're not going to be looking to get every single city, every single commodity that it requires. And the reason I do it that way is it keeps some of our cities suppressed in terms of their overall size and growth, and then you have that nice mixture between your populous major cities, in our cases cities such as Knoxville, Nashville and Carrollton, and then we also have some smaller cities nearby, and I'm thinking cities down in the south such as Green Bay and Rockford will fit that bill, and up here we have cities such as Clarksville and potentially Wilmington as well. Now we are in a bit of a tunnel here, as we can see. I might... oh no, we are now coming out of the tunnel. I was thinking of maybe just getting rid of the tunnel there and having either a cut-in or bringing the track up to ground level, but I'm happy to keep the tunnel, And what that means is then obviously our junction is not going to be inside the tunnel, because that always looks odd, and instead we can have a junction between the mouth of this tunnel here and this one, and that gives us plenty of room to get some tracks laid in to connect into Wilmington later down the line. Okay, so which way do we want to be heading now? Let's see. Now we're still going in the right direction, although I was initially planning on coming a bit further to the south down here. However, what we can do instead, we can amend our plans on the fly, have a separate bridge over here, and then, is that a tunnel there? Yes, it is. So if we get our track heights correct, we might be able to get across our freight line without having to have any interaction if we can lay some tracks above this tunnel here. So that could be quite handy, but as I said, it will depend on our track heights, of course. For now, our first task is, of course, to bridge this river that we have fast approaching in front of us. So let's see what sort of bridge it's going to give us. Let's just get it nice and straight. So it's defaulted to the stone bridge. Now obviously we are not going to use that because the speed limitations are too restrictive. We could use an iron bridge. That will still slow us down 112 miles per hour, but it's certainly far less of a reduction in speed than a stone bridge offers. And the suspension bridge is the same, 112 miles per hour. And while it does look the part, I always find suspension bridges a little bit strange when they're so close to the water level. So I think for this bridge we'll just use an iron girder bridge like that. Whoops, I thought I had the track there, but I did not, so let's try that again. And I've just noticed we're still using a bridge here. That is perhaps not something we want to be doing. So let's just delete this track here, like that, and we'll delete that road. It's not a major connection, so nobody's going to be upset with us for doing it. Let's take it all the way back there, and what the heck, we may as well bring it all the way to this industry here, just to get rid of it in its entirety. And then when we start relaying this track here, we'll make sure we switch to earthworks rather than a bridge, and we'll allow the game to bring the track up to a higher elevation at this point. Let's see, we got a... oh no, we don't have a bridge. I saw the bridge symbol and got a little bit confused. Right, so it remains to be seen now whether we're able to get enough elevation height or elevation change on our main line here that will allow us to bridge over this. And it, well, I say bridge over, I mean just come over the top. It looks like we might. Let's have a look what would happen. Yes, that's good actually. It's a good height over the freight line, so that's fine. Of course, we'll swap it for the box section bridge, or the iron bridge. We have a tunnel there. How deep are we? Could we get away with a cutting? No, we couldn't, because we are quite deep there, as we can see. We have another bridge here. I quite like the look of the viaduct style bridge there, but the speed is too prohibitive, so let's see, how does that look? Let's try that versus... no, we might just have to go for a raised embankment. Yeah, I think that looks best, so we'll accept that. That's got us over and above our freight line without any interaction, so we're not going to have issues where trains are waiting at junctions or anything like that, which is always a positive. It does mean everything flows a little bit more freely. Yeah, that's all fine to me, no problems with that. Just double check it, make sure it looks apart. Now we have both tracks laid, and for me it absolutely does. Right, so now we're in a position where we're facing, or we're coming across our river, and we're pretty much pointed the direction we want to be headed into Knoxville as well, so that's very handy. And I think what we'll do here is we might have the the tracks maintain their current height, have raised earthworks here, and it looks silly, but of course we do have the terraforming tools to just blend it in with the surrounding terrain. So it looks silly for now, but we can come back a little bit later and just make it look a little bit more natural. And we could have a rather extravagant bridge here, which would be quite nice. So let's get to the edge of the river, just there. And if we do this in a wanna, what's it gonna look like? So we're making sure we are keeping our current height, which we are. I like the continuation of the bridge. Of course, we're not going to use the stone bridge. Maybe we'll go for a nice extravagant suspension bridge here. I think that looks nice. I quite like that. Yeah, I think we'll go for that. I'm pleased with that. So let's duplicate that with our second stretch of track. How does it look from a distance? Is it making it is it a bit of a landmark? It certainly is, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think we'll be able to get any ships under here if we ever wanted to do shipping. Let's check. We haven't dipped our toes into the water, if you'll excuse the pun, of shipping just yet. No, it is open. The ships are navigable. Sorry, the water is navigable, so that's really good. A couple planes there, the Lockheed Super Constellations. Anything else? That's just another reskin. We have the EMD F7A Pennsylvania Railroad, and a reskin of that, and another one. Oh, that's the engine car. The reverse variants, and yep, that's all we've got. So we might use them somewhere, but we'll come back to them a little bit later. Right, so now we're pretty much in the final stretch here. So what we're going to do now is allow the game to dictate the terrain height, switch back to earthworks. I say allow it to dictate, we don't want it to climb upwards. What height are we at incidentally? 24 meters. What height are our tracks at down here? Let's have a look. Which one do we want to be on? This one here. Let's just check. Let's get a line off here. We're at 8 meters. Okay, so we need to drop quite substantially. We do have plenty of space to do it, so the gradient shouldn't be too taxing. So let's get this down to 8 meters, shall we? Or close enough to 8 meters. There we go, 9 meters. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We don't want to go that low, so let's just tweak this to 8, and there we go. So we are going to have a tunnel here, which we'd planned for anyway. There's no way around that. We're certainly not going to climb all the way up and then spiral down. That would just be silly. Tunnel there again. We could skirt around. Do we want to do that? Skirt. Right, it's a bit out. It would be a tight turn. Let's just go for what we had there. In fact, let's bring it all the way through. We don't want to be at -2 meters, of course. We want to be at 8, so let's make sure we get to around about 8 meters. And yep, tunnel there, tunnel there. Bridge continuation, no, that's better. Straight through, and then we should be able, as we emerge from this tunnel here, as this hillside drops away, to connect into this passenger line here. We don't have any spare platform capacity here in Knoxhill, so we will have to share, and we are going to share with the line that runs to Clarksville, which is this blue train here that's just departing, and that train runs on these outer tracks here, which is quite handy because we don't have to cross over. Anyway, stop waffling, build the track. Okay. So let's duplicate it, or parallel it, like that. Perfect. And where are we? Hopefully we can get out here nicely. Yes, we can. Can we? How are we going to merge in? Well, we're going to have a bit of single shared track here. So I think what we'll do is, as we come out of the tunnel, like that, we'll merge over, and if we can get a high speed merge here, that'd be great. And let's get you level to that switch just there, and let's see, can we get a nice fast merge? It looks like 1 2 3 or 1 2 1 right there is the best we're going to achieve, and that is more than acceptable. Whoops, there we go. Build that, and now we'll have you come all the way down here. Now you have to do it before the road then, so a little bit slower here, and the track wiggles a bit, but that's because we've come parallel there. I think we'll just live with that. We could change it out, but it would be a bit fiddly, so we'll just accept it and live with it. And then what we want to do is electrify this bit of track here on approach into Knoxville, just to make sure our trains don't get grumpy. And then we may as well also high speed the tracks as well, so otherwise we're going to have quite a bit of slowdown on our mainline service on this final stretch. There we go. Oh, a little bit more just there as well. Okay, so that's ready to go. The last thing we want to do is electrify the platform at Knoxville as well. Sorry, at Norfolk. So railed, upgrade, catenary, and what the heck, we'll just do all of our passenger platforms like that. Wonderful. Okay, so before we get our train up and running, our line set up, we of course want to set up our signals. So we'll have a 3-aspect one-way just before the diamond, and then we'll just put blocking signals in throughout. These can be pretty well, maybe not on this bit because we might have a couple of services running down here. Of course, we're going to have the service into Wilmington at some point, so we might need a few blocks down here. That might have to... oh no, it's... where is Wilmington? Oh, we've got plenty of space. So yeah, we want to get quite a few blocks in here, just to keep things flowing as freely as they can and reducing wait time at each block. But then as we go past Wilmington, we can look to reduce the number of blocks that we have and have them fairly spaced out. So from here on out, this is where we can start to really spread out our blocks. In terms of overall trains we're going to have on this service, it's not going to be a great deal, perhaps 2, potentially 4, depending on the popularity and the uptake of the service. We'll have that whole bridge as a distinct block. We'll put one here, another block just here, and then this will be our final block. And of course we want a signal here because this will be one bi-directional, sorry, and of course we're sharing here as well. So we might have trains waiting at this signal as trains are going in and out of the station, but that's fine. Just to make sure we clear the block behind, we'll put a short signal there, and that means a train... oh no, in fact no, we don't need that. We don't need that, because if we're only having 2 services running down here, then the chance of both being at the station at the same time should be relatively low once they've spaced themselves out. Okay, so depot selection. We have depot here, but to get, we'd have to come all the way around the houses to get into Norfolk. So what I'm thinking is we'll have a depot down here somewhere. Perhaps just here. High speed and catenary. Just like that. And then hopefully this will be able to service all of the services that will be coming in and out of Norfolk. So let's do that. Right, so now we can set up the main line. And what did we use for our naming system for our main lines? Okay, so new line, Norfolk all the way down here to Knoxville. Okay, you've opted to share a platform with the Green service, which is a local service. That's the one to Haywood. I think I'd prefer you on platform 2, and I'll tell you why. If we come here, look, the platform service in Haywood is more popular than the platform service in Clarksville. And if this service also proves popular, then we're going to have 2 popular services on one platform, and then that's when you start to run into platform crowding issues. So that's why we're going for Clarksville. Are you the Memphis train? Yeah. I was going to say the Memphis platform is empty, but that's of course because it's just been loaded up. So let's go into terminals and then assign line 1, it will be changed of course, to the same terminal as our Clarksville service. There we go, back to the line manager. We want to rename this line, and we'll use the same naming convention for this as we have for our other mainline services, and we'll call this Norfolk back and forth to Knoxville. Colour scheme, we have blue, green and red so far for our mainline services. I was going to go for yellow. Maybe I still will. Let's just have a look at the colours we have available. So we have blue, green and red already spoken for. Perhaps a pink this time out, like that. Yeah, and it's separate and distinct from the freight line here, which is a darker shade of pink. So we shouldn't get confused there. Yep, I think that will work. I don't see why not. Okay, so last of all, we can purchase the train. And while we're in the train depot, we may as well go and take a look at that train we unlocked a few moments ago, the Pennsylvania Railroad. 103 miles an hour. A decent, not bad power. The tractive effort is pretty poor, however. And 720,000, so maybe... But then if we coupled it up, of course, with a power car, and also had the reverse... Where are they? I thought we got the reverse variants as well. Perhaps we didn't. No, unless it's some... Yeah, there we go. Yeah, if we doubled it up or coupled it up with a reverse locomotive as well, then it still the tractive effort's not going to be very good. I mean, when you look at some of the tractive efforts we have on our other trains available, and I know we could skew the results by looking at things such as the big boy, but even some of our smaller trains, such as the USA S160, is more than double the tractive effort, so maybe the Pennsylvania won't see action, or if we do put it anywhere, it's going to be on one of the cargo lines that doesn't have a huge consist. Anyway, that's all irrelevant. That's not what we're looking at right now. We're wanting a high-speed mainline train. So, options. We have the Pioneer Zephyr. However, the tractive effort isn't great. The Alcos are pretty nice. What else do we have? Let's look at electric. We have these, but they're very expensive to run, and in fact that speed isn't great either at 99. Alco, yes, we've seen you. We have some of these potentially. That's not bad. They're not bad. Anything else? We've just been looking at the Pennsylvania railroads. The Baldwins, and finally Steam. Apart from, I think, the Polar Express, which is 120 miles an hour, most of our steam trains are pretty slow for a mainline service. Maybe we'll go for something along these lines. Which one would we want? Let's have a look. Let's try that. Passenger wagons. We'll go for that one. It's ever so slightly better on emissions. Maybe have 5 carriages back to the locos, diesel locos, just to filter them all out. Was it the 1450? Yes, it was. How is that? It's not bad, but it's not great. Let's see what else we could. We could. No, that's only 75 miles per hour. That's not viable. Do we have any really high speed here? We have 102, but and then we'd be holding our passenger wagons back, so we don't want that. What about Alco? Let's try the Alco multi-unit. Of course, we'll put it to the front. How are you? You're better. I mean, the track is more than 6 kilometers by a fair margin, so it would be able to get up to its maximum speed fairly readily. I don't think the Zephyr's really an option, and our electrics are a bit slow at the moment. I think we'll have to go for that, and we'll start with 2. We're sub 50 million for the 2 of them, which is not bad. And what colour was it? Was it a light pink? I think it was. So we will colour them and assign them to this new mainline service, and away they go. Right, so we're up to the half-an-hour mark, so I think we'll have to leave it here for today's episode. I would have liked to have connected into some of the smaller cities such as Wilmington, Sioux Falls and Grand Prairie, but we can do that another day because they should be fairly straightforward. In fact, what we will do very quickly, because it is quite a quick thing to do, is get a bus service set up for Norfolk, because as we can see, we have pretty much the entirety of our residential district not within the catchment area of our station. So let's get a nice simple bus system set up for this city, and it will just be a very straightforward loop system like this. Stop outside of the station, head down here, down here, down here. That should give us blanket coverage. Quick new line, so round the houses, literally and metaphorically, like that. And you're back down. Why can't I see the line? Oh, it's because I've got the filter on. There we go, that's better. Yeah, that's all okay. Yep, nothing I can see that's going to cause issues, and we've got a weird turnaround there, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I think we can just upgrade that road size and that'll get rid of that. So where are we? We'll be right down at the bottom. So B, and what's it? This is Norfolk, isn't it? There's an R in Norfolk. Norfolk 01. Colour, let's give it a bit more of a striking colour. Let's say yellow. There we go. Do we have a depot near here? Yeah, we do. Right over there. Buy vehicles. Stick to the Greyhound silver sides. Let's get 5 of them. Paint them yellow. Get the maintenance jacked up. And put them on the line. And there we go. Oh, let's just upgrade this road here as well, shall we? So, roads, streets, upgrade. Yeah, buildings will be moved, that's fine. No, you're still doing that. It's because you're merging into a smaller capacity road. What if we upgrade that road to a large, like that, which is no bad thing anyway. And do these as well. It's going to remove and demolish some of the buildings, but it's all in the name of progress. That's better. Whoa, that's less better. That's less good. We don't want. Well, yeah. What would happen if we made that a 3-lane or 6-lane road? Let's see. Nope, he's still doing it. Okay. I don't know why they can't just pull out and merge across to the left turning lane there, but apparently they can't. what about doing that? That'll solve it. Of course, if they start to build down here again, it will revert it back, but for now it's fine. And that also means we could just take that back down to that size as well. There we go. Okay, and that's where we'll leave it for today. Then I've just quickly paused it so we can just halt the calendar progression. Our train is just leaving the station. No passengers yet, but I didn't expect that there would be. And we can hop on board and we can have a ride over to Knoxville. There we go. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode and you are continuing to enjoy the series overall. And if you haven't checked out the Railway Empire 2 series, then I do encourage you to do so, as we are playing through that as well. We're currently on the UK and Ireland scenario, Railway Mania, and so far so good over there. So if trains are your thing and you haven't yet seen it, then I do encourage you to check that out as well. As always, a very special thank you to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon. Your support is absolutely wonderful, you fantastic people, and it makes all of this possible, so thank you very much indeed. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, all that remains for me to say is, as always, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.